My boyfriend and his white moonlight were kissing. I bundled them up tightly, ready to admire my first killing. But when the news came on, I had no time to savor their expressions of terror. Because the number was wrong. My boyfriend wasn't answering his phone. But a man, grinning hideously, was closing in step by step. I sighed, pulling the switchblade from my pocket. I told you not to come over. Why wouldn't you listen? Should have known better than to stab him so many times. I squatted down, about to clean up the scene, when I saw his phone vibrate on the ground. The screen lit up, the only point of light in the dark alley. Cousin, found that bitch Suyin yet? I am Suyin. And I recognized the number. It was Gu Qin's, my boyfriend's white moonlight. I raised an eyebrow in surprise. So this drunk wasn't just making a move, he was specifically here to lie in wait for me? Things were finally getting interesting. I picked up the phone and replied, "Yep." The response was quick. "Thanks, cousin. Have a fun night fun?" I glanced at the man's dead white eyes on the ground. Probably not having fun anymore. Looking at the words on the text message, I suddenly felt a bit curious about what Gu Qin was doing. She always liked to share her life on social media. I clicked into her profile. The latest post, from 10 minutes ago, "No matter what, you'll always drop everything and come to my side." The photo showed her and Lu Jianren taking a selfie on a Ferris wheel. In the picture, they were smiling so happily, so sweetly, kissing as if they couldn't bear to part. If Lu Jianren wasn't my boyfriend, I might even be moved by their love story. No wonder he didn't answer the 7 calls I made for help. Turns out he was off on a romantic Ferris wheel ride with his white moonlight. I shook my head, laughing softly. They say this particular Ferris wheel has a special meaning, guarding the eternal love of those who ride it. But Lu Jianren, what in this world is more eternal than death? My hands were shaking while I handled the body, almost dropping the knife. But not from fear. From excitement. I was born with sociopathic tendencies, the bloodlust ingrained in my bones. But my mom, holding my hand before she died, made me promise never to let anyone discover my nature, to act like a normal person. Looking at her dying face, I reluctantly agreed. But now, I licked my lips, trying to suppress the tremor in my heart. Calm down, Suyin. There are 2 more targets, waiting for you. Lu Jianren's place was right next to the Ferris wheel. After their date, they'd definitely go back to his place to hook up. All I had to do was stake out the place. But I waited at his place until midnight, and no one came back. I twirled the knife in my hand, feeling annoyed. Did they get a hotel room? I opened Gu Qin's social media again. An hour ago, she'd posted another photo. In the picture, she and Lu Jianren were holding hands, fingers intertwined. On his wrist was the Jaeger LeCoultre watch I'd given him. The caption had only 5 words, "A thrilling night." I clicked on the large image and realized the background looked familiar. Wasn't that my apartment complex? So my boyfriend planned to bring another woman to my place while I was away, to hook up in my bed? A truly original idea. I slowly curved my lips into a smile. It certainly was a thrilling night. Well then, let me help you make it even more thrilling. I grabbed my knife and headed out. After climbing onto the balcony, I didn't rush inside. I squatted there and looked at my phone. Gu Qin's cousin's phone, that is. I'd grabbed it on my way out and found a surprise inside. The photo album was filled with picture after picture of girls' terrified faces, twisted poses, shattered bodies. I raised an eyebrow with interest. Truly a serial rapist and killer. Some of his methods of dismemberment were quite interesting. Maybe I could let Lu Jianren and Gu Qin experience them too. The sounds from inside gradually died down, followed by Lu Jianren's mocking voice, "Little minx, satisfied now?" If Suyin knew what we did in her place, she'd be furious. Gu Qin's sweet and charming voice responded. She'd have to come back first. The next second, her triumphant voice caught in her throat. Her eyes widened in disbelief as she looked at me, slowly standing up on the balcony. I smiled and winked at her. "Hi." Gu Qin's eyes filled with confusion and fear. She murmured, "How could this be?" "Oh." She thought her cousin had raped and murdered me. Lu Jianren turned and saw me too. He was startled at first, then a trace of impatience flickered in his handsome eyes. What are you doing back? You're a total buzzkill. His tone was so nasty, completely unlike someone who'd just been caught cheating by his girlfriend. Actually, it wasn't his fault he treated me so dismissively. 8 years ago, I promised my mom I'd be normal. But how did I know how to be normal? So I could only try to recall my mom's appearance, actions, and expressions before she died. Even my attitude towards Lu Jianren was an imitation of my mom's attitude towards my dad. Slowly, everyone started saying I had a good temper, that I was soft-natured. If Gu Qin hadn't set up this whole thing with her rapist cousin today, I'd probably still be miserably keeping up the act. I slowly curved my lips, smiling with something close to pleasure. I came back to kill you. Slap! A heavy slap landed on my face, and the taste of blood immediately filled my mouth. I froze for a second, then looked up. Gu Qin stood on the bed, looking down at me from above. Who do you think you are? You're just a substitute he found while I wasn't around. A dog he can kick away anytime. Did you really think you were important? So she didn't believe I was serious about killing T. She thought I was just jealous and throwing a fit. This was the greatest insult to a killer. I pressed my tongue against my cheek, feeling the blood in my body practically boiling. Lu Jianren leaned against the headboard, watching me with half of my face swollen and red. But he didn't forget to drape a blanket over Gu Qin. It's so cold, aren't you afraid of getting chilled? Gu Qin's expression grew even more triumphant, her head held high like a victorious rooster. I felt like laughing a little. They were childhood sweethearts, bound by a twisted kind of love. For over a decade, the rich young master and the pampered daughter would break up over the slightest disagreement. Then Gu Qin would go abroad, while Lu Jianren, who supposedly loved Gu Qin deeply, didn't stay faithful, going through one girlfriend after another. Until Gu Qin grew impatient and came back, snatching Lu Jianren away from those insignificant substitutes again and again, only to fall back into the next breakup cycle. If the story ended there, those girls would just be ordinary sacrifices in a wealthy family's stand-in drama. But Gu Qin was intensely jealous, to the point of obsession. She couldn't tolerate any woman who held the title of Lu Jianren's girlfriend. Even though she knew Lu Jianren loved her the most, even knowing those women were her substitutes, she had to watch every single one of them die horribly. Only then could she satisfy her hatred. So, they became material for Gu Qin's cousin's photo album. But that's okay. Soon, they would become my material too. In Lu Jianren's suddenly constricted pupils, the reflection of my raised knife gleamed. Of course, I didn't just hack them to death. That would have been too boring. I waited for a full 4 hours before Gu Qin woke up. She thrashed wildly, trying to break free from the ropes binding her. The rough nylon rope left deep red welts on her tender bare skin. She screamed and cursed at me. Let me go, you crazy freak. You psycho. Her voice was hoarse from screaming. I told her to be quiet. She refused. Do you think Lu Jianren will like you without me? You're dreaming. A fake is always a fake. You'll never replace me. She spat at me viciously, her saliva almost hitting my face. The noise was giving me a headache. So I cut off Lu Jianren's right ear and threw it at her. The still bleeding ear left a long streak of blood on her face. I smiled. Quiet now. Gu Qin's mouth hung open, like a fish pulled from water. Finally, fear appeared in her eyes. She looked at me almost pleadingly. Please, please don't hurt him. I had seen that look many times. In Gu Qin's cousin's phone. Those girls begged him desperately to let them go, but what they got was the man's intensified abuse, their incomplete remains. But I'm different from her cousin. I'm a girl. Girls are soft-hearted. So I said, all right. In Gu Qin's surprised gaze, I placed the knife in Lu Jianren's trembling hand. He'd been injected with a small amount of muscle relaxant, even gripping the knife was difficult for him. But he held it tightly, forcefully. The point of the knife was aimed directly at his beloved Gu Qin. He doesn't die, you do. I winked at Gu Qin. Who do you think he'll choose? Lu Jianren had been awake much longer than Gu Qin. At first, he was just like Gu Qin, cursing me wildly. For every curse he uttered, I made a cut on him. Then he stopped cursing. He started begging me, I have money, I have lots and lots of money. I can give you whatever you want, just let me go. For every plea, I sliced off one of his fingers. Then he stopped begging. Later, he knelt before me and confessed his love. Yining, I love you. I really do love you. Otherwise, why would I have been with you for 2 years? No one has ever been with me this long. I felt like laughing a little. I had seen him swear his undying love only for Gu Qin. I had seen the he treated me like trash when Gu Qin was around. But to save his life, he claimed the person he loved most was me. This time, I didn't hurt him again. Lu Jianren immediately saw hope. He reached out, wanting to grab my hand. The love in his eyes was practically overflowing. Yining, don't do anything foolish. Let me go, let's be together properly, okay? I'll marry you, and you can stand by my side openly. I looked back at his incredibly deep eyes, feeling a strange amusement. A man's love, it turns out, can really be an act. The moment his hand was about to grasp the handle of the knife in mine, I lifted the blade and plunged it through his palm. Amidst Lu Jianren's agonizing screams, I spoke each word distinctly, kill Gu Qin. Kill her, and I'll let you go. Lu Jianren advanced on Gu Qin step by step. Surprise flickered in Gu Qin's eyes, then confusion, then disbelief. You're going to kill me? Lu Jianren didn't answer her. In his eyes now, Gu Qin was no longer his cherished white moonlight childhood sweetheart, but the sole ladder to his escape. The knife tip pressed against Gu Qin's chest, the sharp blade immediately puncturing a small hole, drawing blood. I stood behind Gu Qin, secretly untying her ropes, anticipating a fierce, desperate fight to the death. What a spectacular sight it would be, lovers who were embracing moments ago, now fighting to the death for their own survival. But I waited, and what I got was Gu Qin closing her eyes in despair. A tear rolled down from the corner of her eye, but her lips even curved into a smile. She was willing to die for Lu Jianren. Utterly foolish. Enraged, I grabbed the axe leaning against the wall and brought it down heavily on Lu Jianren's neck. The dagger abruptly stopped. Bright red blood sprayed onto Gu Qin's face and body. She opened her eyes and screamed. She threw herself onto the floor, clutching Lu Jianren's head, howling, shaking his lifeless body, and she looked at me, still gripping the axe. Gu Qin, who had been like a whipped dog in front of Lu Jianren, suddenly went mad. She yanked the switchblade from her own chest and lunged at me, stabbing wildly. I'll kill you. With bloodshot eyes, disheveled hair, and covered in blood, she looked like an avenging spirit risen from hell. I suddenly remembered the first time I saw Gu Qin. She was wearing a beautiful dress, the center of attention, and she walked up to me, chin raised, and asked, "Are you Suyin?" Though malicious, she was truly beautiful and always carried herself with haughty refinement. But now, for a man who would have killed her to save himself, she had turned herself into a raving madwoman. She even turned her fury on others. Why didn't my cousin tear you limb from limb, you bitch? Why aren't you the one who's dead? What was that useless idiot doing? I snatched the dagger from her hand, grabbed her hair, and dragged her to the television. Want to know why? Then open your damn eyes and look. The news was on television. A violent brawl occurred in a West City alley, resulting in the deaths of 2 suspects. Police investigation revealed one suspect was a wanted perpetrator of a family annihilation case from a neighboring city. The other suspect is believed to be linked to multiple rape cases in recent years. The case is currently under further. Gu Qin, who had been struggling madly moments ago, suddenly froze. Even though his face was blurred, she must have recognized him, the face of the cousin she had just been cursing. She looked at me in disbelief. You killed him? You killed my cousin? The series of blows finally sent her into a breakdown. But what she didn't know was that the moment I heard the news, my limbs turned instantly cold. I had only killed one person. Who killed the other one? Why did the police say it was a brawl? Cold sweat soaked my back. I suddenly remembered the inexplicable feeling of being Ying watched when I climbed onto the balcony. But when I looked back then, it was just darkness, no one there. I forced myself to take a deep breath. Maybe someone else was also on the prowl outside, just like me. They happened to stumble upon that body and used it to fake their own crime scene. Don't panic, Suyin. But this turn of events really dampened my mood. I taped her mouth shut and threw her into the bathroom, deciding to deal with her later. But before long, there was a noise from the bathroom. Loud sounds. My place is an old apartment complex, and the bathroom connects to the hallway. Gu Qin must have figured that out, so she was trying to make noise to attract someone outside. But what she didn't know was, this building was about to be demolished soon, and almost all the residents had moved out. Only me and the 80-year-old lady on the 4th floor were left. Given how deaf she is, even if I was blasting a trumpet in the apartment, she'd probably think it was just a mosquito buzzing. That's also why I dared to let Gu Qin scream and rave last night. I walked into the bathroom and, sure enough, saw Gu Qin trying to lift her bound feet to kick the water pipe. This triggered the sound-activated light outside, which flickered on and off. My gloomy mood suddenly lifted considerably. Dad was right. The struggle of a dying prey is indeed the most beautiful sight in the world. I reached down and lifted her up, ready to continue the game I'd started earlier. Just as I got her to the living room, there was a knock on the door. "Excuse me, is everything all right?" It was a middle-aged man's voice. My heart leaped. How could there be a man in this building? A spark of hope immediately flashed in Gu Qin's eyes, and she started whimpering, trying to make a sound. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed her head and slammed it hard against the floor. She instantly went silent. I put Gu Qin down and tiptoed to the door, peering through the peephole. Just that one look sent my heart into my throat. In the hallway, there were streams of blood flowing out. There were even tiny bits of flesh and tissue, glowing a strange deep red. My apartment is an old, corridor-style building, the bathroom is right next to the hallway entrance, and the water pipes are embedded in the wall near the hallway. I didn't know if it was due to the pipes being old and in disrepair, or if Gu Qin had broken something when she was kicking earlier. All the water from the drain had leaked out. Thank God it was the middle of the night. If this had happened when that police officer came earlier today, I'd probably be in handcuffs right now. Damn Gu Qin, causing trouble even after she's dead. I cursed a few times, while frantically grabbing a rag to plug the bathroom drain. The most important thing now was to stop the blood water from seeping out. As for the mess outside, I had to deal with that quickly too. I checked my watch. It was 3 a.m. Yeah, she shouldn't be out and about. I quietly grabbed a bucket and a rag and opened the door. The bloodstains were easy enough to clean up, but what about the smell? In this narrow corner, with poor ventilation, the smell definitely wouldn't dissipate overnight. Was there anything I could use to get rid of the smell of blood? White vinegar? Medicated oil? Perfume? I thought to myself as I wrung out the rag. The red blood, reflecting the moonlight, was like a beautiful pool of blood, and because of that, it clearly showed the person approaching me step by step from behind. I spun around abruptly. In the faint moonlight, I saw the face. Xiaxi. I liked Xiaxi very much. More than anyone else in the world. When I was little, my dad always took me hiking. He always chose places that were especially beautiful, lush with grass and water, wildflowers everywhere. Then, he would open his bulky hiking backpack and pour out the mangled flesh inside. Oh, I guess I should call them bodies. He would patiently piece together the bodies in front of me, little by little, then point to each part and tell me, "This is the skull, the hardest bone in the human body, capable of withstanding 200 to 500 kilograms of force, ordinary knives can barely cut through it. This is the leg bone." He would also tell me stories while burying the bodies. This uncle captured many, many little girls and hurt them. Remember that classmate from your kindergarten, Enine? She's only 5, but she might have to live with a catheter for the rest of her life. So, Dad let him experience the same feeling. But guess what? He bit off his tongue to kill himself. Dad adjusted his glasses, stroked my head, and smiled gently with regret. Such a waste. I liked Dad very much. I was always so happy by his side. When I was 9, my mom sent Dad to prison. She watched Dad being led away by the police, tears streaming down her face. I can't let you ruin Ineen. But she must have already sensed that Dad and I were the same kind of people. Dad was sentenced to death. And I lost my dad. That same year, I met Xiaxi. Back then, I was an outcast in the complex. No one wanted to play with me. Her dad's a killer. Oh, then maybe she'll kill people too. They would throw stones at me and splash me with dirty water. Look! Her expression is so scary. It was Xiaxi, protecting me again and again. He never cared about my peculiar and erratic temper, never looked at me strangely. He would carefully clean the blood from my forehead and put on a cartoon character band-aid. I thought it was ugly and wanted to tear it off. He reached out and covered my forehead with his hand, grinning like a sly fox, the corners of his eyes curving high. Little kids should listen to their older brother. I pouted. What kind of older brother was he? Just the grandson of a neighbor's grandmother. He'd probably leave after summer break. But his paw was dry and warm, just like Dad's. I hesitated for a moment and didn't try to pull away. After that summer, Xiaxi didn't leave. He held my hand, that same dry, warm hand, and walked with me year after year. Now, those hands were clamped over his mouth in horror. Ineen, what are you doing? I looked up and called him, just like I did when I was little, Brother Xiaxi. But in my heart, I was thinking, he found out. What a shame. Should I kill him? Even though I'd hate to. I still wanted to live. I slowly stood up, my hand finding the switchblade in my pocket. My wrist was gripped tightly, I couldn't move. Xiaxi's face still held that gentle smile, but the words he spoke sent chills down my spine. Are you going to kill me like you killed those two scumbags, Ineen? Falling to the same fate as them would make me sad. My eyes snapped open. It was him. He was the one watching me from the balcony. How could that be? Something pricked the back of my neck, and cold liquid was injected into my body. The last image before my memory blurred was Xiaxi's eyes staring at me. Dark, narrow, like a venomous snake locking onto its prey. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself in a dark room. The only light source was a small patch of moonlight coming through a vent, hitting rows upon rows of metal shelves, casting a cold silver gleam. The air was thick with the smell of formaldehyde. This was Dad's basement where he collected organs? Aside from Dad and me, not even my mom, who had shared his bed for over a decade, knew about this place. My return this time, celebrating Liu Jianren's birthday, was just a cover. My real purpose was to quickly get rid of this room full of organs before the demolition. How did I get here? Could everything that just happened have been a dream? After Dad died, I would often sneak into the basement alone to sleep when Mom wasn't home. The organs preserved in formaldehyde felt like proof that Dad was still alive. Back then, I often had strange, fantastical dreams too. Bloody, violent. Just like moments ago. I smiled and shook my head, stood up, and was about to walk out when I froze, seeing the glass jars on the shelves. Inside the glass jars were the eyeballs, brains, hearts I had seen countless times. But the formaldehyde preserving them was clear. My dad had been dead for over a decade, which meant even the newest set of organs he collected would be from over 10 years ago. That liquid would have turned yellow and murky by now. How could it be this fresh and clean? A chill instantly spread from my feet. If this wasn't Dad's basement, then where was it? Footsteps echoed in the silent basement. I spun around abruptly, and met the gaze of Xiaxi walking out of the darkness. His voice was still as gentle as it had been when I was a child, but his words carried a strange, chilling quality. Welcome to my world, my dear Ineen. I unconsciously took a step back. Xiaxi had built a basement exactly like Dad's. So, he was the same kind of person as Dad and me? Then why had he brought me here? What did he want? To kill me? To make me his next collection? I instinctively reached for my pocket, but found it empty. Are you looking for this, Ineen? Xiaxi dangled something in his hand, silver light flashed. My heart sank. The switchblade had been taken by him, as expected. Xiaxi's eyes curved into a smile as he looked at me. Ineen, do you know? For a long time, I wanted to kill you. Me? Thanks for telling me. I pretended to be scared and backed away, but my hand, hidden behind my back, secretly reached for the glass jar behind me. Formaldehyde is highly irritating to my membranes. As long as I could. Xiaxi's hand, holding the knife, was already close to my neck, and my palm had touched the edge of the glass jar. Bang! The metal shelf behind me was suddenly pushed over by Xiaxi, and formaldehyde. The liquid spilled everywhere. Countless organs scattered around my feet, surrounding me. Fuck. He's a goddamn lunatic. I took a deep breath, deciding to go all out and fight this lunatic, but I was suddenly pulled into a warm embrace. 16. Xiaxi. I am Xiaxi. Since I was very young, I've always protected a girl. Later, I fell in love with her. But I didn't want to become a second version of her dad. So I could only kill her, make her into a specimen, so she could be with me forever. Safely with me. Every day, I thought about how I could make her die perfectly. Die at the most beautiful moment. For this moment, I practiced on many people. Those people were the scum of society. A beastly father who sold his own daughter for gambling money. A beastly/brutal husband who killed his wife for insurance money. A cold-blooded high schooler who laughed while bullying his classmate until they jumped off a building. Each time, I would take something from them as a souvenir. This habit was something I learned from Su Yin's father. I once accidentally stumbled into his basement, as if opening Pandora's box, awakening a certain instinctive urge deep within me. I replicated a basement exactly like his, watching the specimens on the shelves grow day by day. Finally, one day, I felt it was time. I could give her the most perfect death ritual. 17. Su Yin. Xiaxi cupped my face, almost obsessed. That day was the day I chose. But I didn't expect you to kill someone in front of me. The way you killed was beautiful, so beautiful it made me tremble. But Yinin, you are still too naive. You think if you clean up the traces, the police will never catch you. But they will chase you like dogs forever, leaving you no room to breathe. The best solution is to give them a perfect culprit. No wonder the scene turned out that way. He was cleaning up the mess for me. By the time I finished dealing with the scene, you had vanished. Head without a trace. I had no choice but to go home first. Then, on the balcony, I heard those two scumbags. I originally planned to deal with them for you, but I didn't expect you to come home. All night, I listened to their agonizing screams through a thin wall. For the first time, I felt your soul was so close to mine. He reached out and cradled my face. Yinin, we are made for each other. As if spellbound, I looked into his eyes. I liked this person so much. Yet, after my killer instinct awoke, I started distancing myself from him. The reason I agreed to Liu Jianren's pursuit was only because his eyes were so similar to Xiaxi's. I used to think the boy I loved was pure, kind, like a little son. I didn't want to darken him. But it turns out, he is the same kind of person as me. This is fate's gift to me. We are the most indestructible love in this world. We will always love ourselves more. But our souls touch, and we will never abandon each other. 18. Zhou Kai. I am Zhou Kai. I am a police officer. Occasionally, I'm also in charge of some firearms training at the police academy. One of the cadets was particularly impressive. His name was Xiaxi. He was sharp, upright, kind, and loyal. All of us believed he would become the most outstanding police officer in the future. But he died. Trying to save a little girl who had been separated from her family, he was crushed by a large truck that couldn't brake in time. He was only 19 that year, a sophomore. But even after he was buried deep underground, he never got to wear the navy blue uniform with a badge number. 3 years later, a female graduate student came to the police academy. I noticed her because it's rare for someone who majored in economics and interned for half a year to then apply to the police academy. Another thing was, sometimes her expressions and demeanor were so similar to Xiaxi's. But when I observed closely, I realized they were completely different people. I slapped my head and laughed at myself. Perhaps I just felt it was a shame about that kid, Xiaxi, and was experiencing transference. Later, I got busy and gradually stopped thinking about it. But speaking of coincidences, I went to see my grandmother today and actually ran into her. Turns out she lives in this building too. She even asked if I wanted to come in and sit for a while. Hey, such a warm-hearted good kid. But I was rushing to get to work. So I waved my hand and went upstairs. For some reason, the smile on her face at that moment reminded me of Xiaxi again. They were both good kids. What a pity,